Major League Journeymen on deck. We got quite a few topics we need to run through, but we're starting off with Dax and the playoff scenarios because Atlanta United technically is still alive, which is big. MLS also making some moves. Austin's out. Gregg back in. Chicago Fire making a splash, something that we've been waiting for a while. And we're going to have a little fun at the end with some MLS MVPs. Landon Donovan back in the building. Let's jump in. Major League Journeymen back in the house. We have rectified our technical difficulties. And by rectified, I mean I just took over now new responsibilities, which is basically the way that this whole show operates. Dax has been removed because he's got other things to concentrate on, don't you, Dax? We brought backups, but Dax is focused. We're singularly focused on decision day, aren't we, Dax? Gordo, I know you're worried about it. You've been through a couple decision days. Are you feeling good? Do you get excited, Gordo, about decision day? Like, is it something that you think about? Is it in your veins now? Like, has MLS sold it enough where it's like, oh man, I love this day. I'm pumped. I'm excited for the day.
You can go through all the bad things that MLS does. This is the one good thing that they have actually put into place, because regardless of how the season goes or who's really good, it's always 100% that there will be 17 teams that can either make it or miss it on the last day. I mean, the MLS has such great parity. Great job, Don Garber. You've done your job. And everybody is within 3 points of each other. It's brilliant.
You need a serious mathematician to figure out the scenarios. Dax is going to break down his scenario to get in, but there are a lot of differing situations that ultimately end up on decision day. Do you like the whip around coverage, Gordo, or do you want a staggering start? Because everyone plays at the same time.
I like the whip around. It's like NFL red zone of sorts in soccer. So take us to when somebody scores, and then they give like the projections, and then
for the live updates.
One bounces up, and then a tie. I think it's the best day in MLS soccer for all those reasons. But it's
for really, you. Does it do enough? Does it do enough to replicate the idea of promotion relegation? And I know that that's a loaded question because the answer is easy, right? It doesn't, right? It's not that serious. But does it give you that excitement at the end of the year? Because I think for me it does. I'm pretty pumped to find out, and it also gives at least a handful of clubs that like sense of urgency at the end of the year is still alive.
It does. It keeps the MLS together, right? It keeps the MLS together. It keeps it exciting. I think one thing that you could say it does better than European leagues is that you got in European leagues, the only guys in trouble at the end of the day are like 4, maybe 5 teams on a really interesting year. 3 teams are fighting for, relegation to stay up. And then you got a couple teams at the top, typically really not even. You kind of know who it is. There's some exciting years where like Man City, scores that late winner with Aguero. Those are the cool years. But like, there's
the fat in the middle of the sandwich is
they're
done.
Good.
They're done early. They are done early.
Yeah. And so, how many teams mathematically are eliminated at this point, Dax? Statman Dax.
I was going to tell you the reason I was going to jump in was because I was going to say your point in general when you started off by saying it's super exciting for a ton of teams all the way down to the last day. That's true for every single year except for this one. The Western Conference, playoff picture. Of course. It's just a typical Gordo statement. I love it. The Western Conference playoff picture has been sorted out for about a week or two now.
About a week now, but we haven't recorded in a couple of weeks because Dax has ruined the recording process. So we're just catching up, Dax.
You guys came out and with a public apology, so everyone knows it was your guys' fault. So thank you guys for that. I'm just the one who said it.
Thank you for delivering that for us, Dax. That was very considerate.
The West Coast, the Western Conference has been sorted out for a few weeks now. Now it's just about jockeying for position. Portland kind of knew that they were in it 2 weeks ago, right? Like mathematically, I think Austin could have caught up if something went crazy, but like the West has been locked up for a few weeks. The East is the only conference that has a little bit of jumbling for potential playoff places.
Spots available, right?
Yeah, there's a couple spots available.
So Dax,
Okay.
what, Gordo? What do you?
Thanks, Dax. Now I'm not going to watch Decision Day, but it still is exciting because
you will watch Decision Day for the East.
Yes,
for the East. The East is still alive.
Listen, I just found out recently that the home team, the team that's a higher seed gets a home game in their own stadium.
Oh my God,
not like Dax. 2005. But that still makes it exciting.
I gotta share this story. So I'm texting Gordo, and I'm like, Gordo, are we gonna go to MLS Cup this year? And he's like, yeah. Where is it? This is obviously
I was in this text, and I was dying.
And I'm like, hey, Muppet, what are you even talking about? I'm like, are you serious right now? And his response is, just tell me. He doesn't realize that he's an absolute moron and doubles down on he's an absolute Muppet. Oh, so good.
But if you knew it's Super Bowl. But if you knew what was going on in this side of the camera, I'm in my car and you won't respond. And I'm like, just tell me, dude. And I'm searching, where is MLS Cup? And I can't find it anywhere. They're just giving me like the table of the playoff teams. And I'm like, dude, there's no information about where the cup is. This is really bad marketing.
all I responded with was a meme that goes like this, and he's like, just tell me. And he's like, and then I obviously told him, I was like, hey bub, he didn't figure it out. I told him, I was like, hey bub, you actually played in the first iteration of why the cup was in LA. And then he realized it, and then he was like, so who's playing in MLS Cup? He didn't ask that. I'm just kidding. But Dax, you specifically have an opportunity to finish off your career in the playoffs, but a lot of things have to happen. Why don't you share with us, because Gordo clearly doesn't know what the restrictions are or the things that have to happen here. Can you share what you guys are talking about with playoff potential here, the scenarios?
Yeah, we're still alive. Still alive.
Heartbeat intact.
And we haven't been in the best form. Yeah, we haven't been in the best form. Every week, we've played and the results haven't really gone our way, but we've like tied and we've kept picking up points here and there that give us like that little hope, like, hey, come on, once we get this win, like we're going to be in it. So the Red Bulls was actually a must-win game, the last game that we played in. And it was a pretty wild game. I don't know if you guys saw the highlights, but penalties, red cards, all that fun stuff. So we're in it with a chance. We are currently sitting on 37 points right now. And the 8th and 9th seed, so the play-in game, that's the only chance we have is to make the play-in game. The 8th and 9th seed are on 40 points. So that's DC United, Montreal Impact. So essentially, we have both of those teams on goal difference.
You have the tiebreaker.
We have the tiebreaker is the first, but I think the first tiebreaker might be wins. So
I think the first tiebreaker is head-to-head.
No, it's total wins. First tiebreaker is total wins.
It's not head-to-head.
Well, I don't think it's head-to-head because if you split, it doesn't matter. I think it's wins, total wins. And then it goes to goal difference. But we need DC and Montreal to lose.
Right.
Because they're both on 10 wins. We're on 9 wins. So like every scenario I'll run through is us winning. We have to win. If we don't win, we're out. And
so that's a start. Yeah.
We have to win. We have to get 3 points. So we need DC and Montreal both to lose. Now, if one of them wins, that's fine. The other one has to lose. But then the wild card here is Philly. Philly is equal to us on 37 points, and they're at 9 wins as well. So we would go to the next tiebreaker, which is goal difference. They're at +8. We're at -4. So they would have us. So if one of DC and Montreal loses, but Philly wins and we win, we would be out. So we need Philly to drop points.
Okay.
We need one of.
Give me the order of operations here.
Essentially,
first, Philly has to lose. No, first Atlanta has to win. Then Philly has to tie or lose. Two
of DC, Montreal, and Philly have to drop points. 2 of them, and then we would go into the playoffs.
No, DC and Montreal have to lose because if they tie, they are ahead of you.
But if one of them wins, the other one drops points. We would still.
Gordo, are you writing this down?
I feel like I'm in like the first day of class where the teacher was like, "All right, we're starting algebra," and I was like,
Oh no.
"What? Hey, can I just say something really quick?"
Yes,
Yeah.
one very quickly though.
What is your coach's name, Dax? Is it John something?
Rob
It's not
Valentino.
Rob Valentino.
Rob Valentino. I'm going to get close to the camera here. Rob, you muppet. Play Dax because you're not getting your job. Just mix it up and try to make a splash, dude. Like, this is getting ridiculous. Dax is getting red because it's uncomfortable for him, but I will say it for my boy. He hasn't been playing, and you guys, you're not getting.
I'm only getting red because I just drank coffee. You're making me.
I think you were born like that, Dax. I don't know if you're getting out of this one, bud.
Change it up.
Change it up. You know who doesn't have to worry about the playoffs? Miami and Columbus, who we keep watching. I think we got to move on from these scenarios, but we did see, and we didn't get a chance to chat about this, but Miami secured the Shield, right? They secured the Shield. Not only did they secure the Shield, they secured the Shield in Columbus. And one of our conversations that I think ultimately ended up in the abyss of the internet or Dax's hard drive was about whether or not Miami or Columbus were the best team. And Miami went to Columbus and got the result that they needed to win the Shield. Dax, I know you watched the game. Did that tell you anything further about either one of those teams? That specific game?
It did. It told me a lot about Miami. And let me just say, first of all, I didn't get to watch the game because we had a game at the same time. But I thought this was a huge litmus test for Inter Miami. I have preached and I will continue to preach that I think when we get to playoff time, when we get to the really, really big games, that Miami is going to be a little bit too undisciplined, a little bit too loose at the back, and they let games get too spread out and disjointed for them to be able to contain the best attacking teams. Because obviously they're going to score goals. I just don't know if they can stop them from going in. This game in particular, I had earmarked for Columbus to win because I felt like Columbus, it was a must win if they wanted to have any chance in the Shield race, right? And Miami went in there and they had gotten the win the game before, and I didn't know if Messi would play or be rested, but Messi played, and Suarez played, and Busquets played, and all these guys played.
Yep.
And they went into who I still project as the best team in the league into their home, and they beat them. And Columbus is not easy to beat anywhere, but especially in Columbus. And so that told me a lot about this team going into the hardest games of the year. I mean, that is a very, very positive update in terms of, I think how difficult they are going to be to get out of the playoffs because Messi's fit. He's playing 90 minutes again. And if you want to look at it in one way, his injury probably got him a little bit of well-needed and much-deserved rest. And so now he is going
good time to get rest for him. That's damn
the point,
sure.
Right? And so it for sure told me more about Miami. We can get into MLS Cup picks later, but I was very impressed with that win. That's a huge win for Miami. And congrats to them on the Shield. They've been the best team all year, and they thoroughly deserve to win the Shield this year.
Gordo, did you watch the game?
Nope.
You did not.
I was at a kids' soccer tournament.
You were at a kids' soccer tournament?
I was. No. Yeah.
Okay. How was the game? How was the game that you were watching? Just curious.
Oh, buddy. I can't say too much, but I just gave up the reins. I had this team dialed in for a couple seasons, and
oh, you're not coaching them anymore?
I've given it up, and let me just say, I think we've won one game this year. So, Coach of the Year award, a reverted Coach of the Year award goes to Alan Gordon again.
So you're throwing the current coaching staff under the bus, just so we're clear.
No, we had a conversation yesterday. I think there could be a little bit of some adjustments. I spoke my
tactical, clearly.
Tactical.
Oh my God. Okay. Well, let me tell you, I did watch most of the game, and I think that what Dax is talking about in terms of some of the susceptibility of Miami was definitely on display. Columbus Columbus was good, but Miami has Messi, and they hurt them in ways that I think, in a lot of ways, only Inter Miami can hurt teams.
Right.
I'm still in this like weird place though with that group.
So Gargs,
Yeah.
did it look like what Dax had alluded to? Did it look like a team that was stretched out, that's going to score goals, and was susceptible on the other end?
At times it definitely did. But I don't think that that's any different than who Miami looks like when they're at their best, which is kind of weird. Because they put that situation on themselves. They want that. It benefits them, because if you're going to bet on somebody, Messi in a half court offense, I'm taking 10 times out of 10 over anybody else in the league. Right? So I feel like they create that. And in the playoffs are a different animal. We know that. But at the same point in time, I don't know, man. I still think it's really tough to bet against Miami. I think it's tough to bet against them, especially with a rested Messi. He's incredible. He's the best player in the league. He is the best player in the league. Hands down, not a close second. So that part of it will be interesting to see. But why this is important, or not why it's important, we did have friend of the pod, Sasha Kleshtin, on earlier in the year, and he made some, in my estimation, both intelligent and ridiculous comments at the same time. And I thought that it was brave for him to say it, because he sounded silly with the argument, even though it is sound logic. He said, I mean, I'm paraphrasing basically, but he said the Supporters Shield is more valuable than MLS Cup, which is a conversation at this point in MLS circles, a tale as old as time, that gets debunked and refuted all the time. But I wanted to let you, Dax, kind of live this place, because he's your teammate. And I think that his logic comes from also a place of not winning MLS Cup, so not having been able to hoist that, but also understanding the value of Supporters Shield, because you have hoisted that. Do you co-sign what he said, or are you on the other side of the fence with Gordo?
So just so we're all clear, I tweeted something out to Sasha as well. And my tune has changed a little bit on this, and I'll try to be quick, but it takes a little context. It takes a little nuance. I agreed with Sasha pre-2020. I agreed with Sasha before the COVID year, because that was, if you take the years from maybe 2009 to 2010 up to 2020, it wasn't a fully balanced schedule, okay? So not every team played everybody else home and away, but up until 2020, 2019 was the last season it happened, your team played every other team in the league. Most of the teams, it was home and away, and there were probably 6 or 7 games where either you went and played someone in a different conference on their home turf, and then a different team from the other conference came and played you. So it wasn't totally balanced, but you still played everyone in the league. That is not the case. I always felt like the Supporter Shield was more valuable, because, to Sasha's point, and where he was right, no one has ever called a league champion or a Shield winner in this case after 34 games, 30 games, however many games we played back in the mid-90s or whatever it was, lucky. No one's ever said that Shield winner is lucky, because you have to be the most consistent and the best team. Stop it. You're not up yet. You have to be, you can make your point later, so put your hand down. You have to be the most consistent and the best team throughout the year. It's hard to argue that, because if you lose a few games here and there, teams are going to pass you by. That's how competitive and close that this league is. So in my estimation, yes, the most consistent and best team overall, they win the Shield, and no one says, oh, that team just got lucky. Maybe Gordo has a different point, which I'm assuming he does. But where I changed my tune, and where I also think MLS Cup is more valuable, you don't get a ring with the Shield. It's just a fact. We are in the USNA playoffs, or what is the barometer for success in this country. That whether we like it or not. If you want to go win a league championship, go to a different country. Go what Sasha did. He won plenty of league titles in Belgium, which is probably also why he supports this narrative and feels that way. I completely understand that. He's not wrong. But if you asked me, and this is what I tweeted, and a couple Red Bulls fans got a little upset, but it's just a fact. coming from a guy who has not gotten a ring and who hasn't been able to have playoff success and win that cup, I would trade in my shields for a ring because that is the barometer of a champion. You cannot call yourself a champion in MLS, in the US, if you win a supporter shield. You just can't. Yes, you can say I'm the regular season champion, but guess what? It comes with an asterisk, okay? That's a fact. You two knuckleheads, you call yourselves champions because you won the trophy. You won the one at the end, right? And so the team that wins the shield, yes, great accomplishment. Be proud of it, celebrate it. It's very important. I'm very proud of the shields that we won because that was such a wonderful time in my career, in my life, where it was validating to go to throughout the whole year and be the best team. But no shield winner that hasn't won MLS Cup has ever ended the season happy. Okay? That is a fact. So yes, take an MLS Cup, of course, over the shield, but 2020 kind of changed my thinking on that because the shield now, you don't play every team. So it devalues it even more. That was my point.
Gordo?
I mean, he made all the right points. I hate to say that, but he made all the right points. I would just say when we won the shield, when San Jose, the Goonies, won the shield in 2012, there was some those guys are lucky shouts. Okay, so maybe we're an outlier in that.
You guys were lucky.
How?
We're the best team in the league.
Yeah. During the regular season.
Wait.
So many things were lucky.
Don't call stoppage time equalizers lucky. Or winners lucky. That's not lucky. All right, was Bayer Leverkusen lucky when they won the Bundesliga?
Exactly. Yeah, and Sasha said nobody ever says they're lucky. So aside from that, I think Dak said it all right. Regular season, this is the only point I would make, is regular season is the best team, hands down. I don't think anybody's going to disagree with that. But,
I do. I disagree with that.
Okay, you can go next. But it's a regular season champion followed by a tournament that people qualify for, like the great Bruce Arena. Every time I was on his team, I was coached by him for maybe 6 seasons in total. Every single time we made it to the playoffs, he would never say playoffs. He never said playoffs one time. He said tournament, like a New Yorker, right? And he knew that we were playing in a tournament style. So it was different from the way that we were going to approach the regular season, which kind of blends into all the reasons we're nervous about LA and Miami and all this, because this is tournament play. And Dax, and as you know, because we both played for Pano. Pano's a better tournament style coach because he looks at the opponent every single time. He's very different than Wilford. They're going to play their style all the time, right? Miami's going to do that. Gregg Vanny's going to do that as well. And Pano is going to, like when he man-marked Piatti in Montreal, it's very, very different to coach for results. And that's the big difference. But Dax is right when he said, no Supporter Shield winner has ever been happy at the end of the year if they don't win the ring.
Before you go, I want to just Paunovic, to Gordo's point, he won the Under-20 World Cup with Serbia, which is a crazy accomplishment.
That's why I said that.
For him. And so yes, to your point, that's a fact. And the other thing I would say is that I couldn't agree more with Gordo in terms of coaches that are stubborn and don't want to adjust and refer to it as a completely different style and tournament soccer, whatever you want to call it. I lived this in 2015 where with Red Bull, we were very clearly the best team in the league. No question about it. We won the Shield. We knew we were the favorite and everyone was scared of us. And we were going to play the same way no matter what with Jesse, under Jesse. And you know who adjusted and changed completely the way they played? Gregg Berhalter and Columbus. And they knocked us out because they completely changed their style of play because they knew that we wouldn't. Okay? So that was painful to hear because that's a fact. And it's interesting to hear Bruce never referred to it as the playoffs. That's a good little anecdote for our listeners as well. That's great.
Is it my turn? Do I get to go now?
Gordo, do you have anything else?
Take it up.
Are we good? Take it up,
okay,
so here's a couple things, and I'll be brief. This is one big tournament. The entire season is one big tournament. So as much as I would like to say that the best team is the Supporter Shield winner, they're not. because it's not prioritized, and everybody is in a big group play with all different priorities to ultimately get to the knockout stages, which are the playoffs. So while the team that wins the Supporter Shield is one of the best teams, I don't think that I can realistically say that they're hands down always the best team. Are they a fluke? Absolutely not. Nobody that wins the Supporter Shield is a fluke. I completely agree with that statement. But I don't think that I can say that the best team is always the Supporter Shield winner. I can't agree with that. And I personally don't think that I don't think that the Seattle Sounders in 2014 were not a better team than us. They were good. They won the Supporter Shield. They were not a better team than us. And it is.
Why?
I don't even think it's because they weren't. They just weren't.
So that's just your opinion.
It's not my opinion. They weren't better than us. It's everybody's opinion. They weren't better than us.
But you're not saying why.
They had a better regular season record. Regular season record. Head to head, they did not beat us better. They did not have a better record against us head to head. But they also weren't a better team. And that's where it's there. We're talking small margins here.
Right.
But my point is they weren't the best team. And they won the Supporter Shield. They are the regular season winners. Fair enough. But I think that Gordo's point, all these coaches prioritize things differently until you get to the knockout stages, which are the playoffs. And then it is very clear. But that starts at the beginning of the season. It is very clear what the end objective is. It's not to win the regular season. You're jockeying for position until you get to the knockout stages, which are the playoffs and the ultimate championship at the end of the year. Let me flip this question on its head. Would you find it beneficial to go into the Premier League or to Serie A or to any of the other ones that prioritize league table at the end as the champion and see playoffs? Would you love that? Would it be a benefit? Would it change your opinion?
I would love that, but I'm an American. That's how we are raised.
Agreed.
So
Agreed.
I think it would be super exciting to see team 3, 4, 5, and 6 have a shot, because typically in the Prem specifically, and it's even worse in other leagues, Bundesliga, Bayern's dominated that league for decades, right? And
what's the best trophy in the world? Club trophy in the world?
Champions League.
Yeah.
What is it? It's a tournament.
The tournament. So I would like to see that in those tournaments, to give the underdog a chance and see them in tournament play. But that's just how we're raised. You know what I mean? They're not raised that way. They would think it would be. They think that all the best clubs, every single team that participates in UEFA or participates in Champions League, they would value that very similarly. I don't know if they would take the old clubs with crazy history, would they take a Champions League cup over winning the Prem? I don't know. You'd have to kind of sift through some of that, the old school mentality. But the reality is the Champions League is the best. It's the best trophy in the world for club soccer, which is also a tournament. I don't know. I think Sasha had some validity, but overall, airball, swing and a miss. Sorry, Sash. Still love you, bub. But he got what he wanted. He's stirring the pot a little bit.
He did get what he wanted, and we're talking about it, which is the point. My man has transitioned into a successful media member.
Well done, Sasha Skip Bayless.
Following in the Big Red's footprints over there. Anyway. We did have a couple notable things that happened MLS-wise before we jump into some of the awards. Josh Wolf gets fired from Austin, which at the time of his firing, I think still had potential to get in the playoffs, which was interesting to see.
Correction, no.
Were they officially out by the time they fired?
Officially eliminated after they lost.
They were officially eliminated. Okay. Surprised, Dax, at all?
No, not surprised, but the timing sucks. The timing is ridiculous. I mean, you can't, unless there was some sort of understanding between him and the GM, like, hey, listen, if and when we're mathematically eliminated from playoff contention, like that's your job. I don't think that would be spoken about. It's ridiculous to do that.
To not give him the last couple weeks of the season.
No, just give him the last game.
Yeah.
He was your first coach in franchise history, and I get it. Like, it's been a tough season. You don't owe him anything, but you can't sit here and tell me that you can't unofficially start your other head coach search. If you know Josh Wolf is moving on at the end of the season, you can't unofficially start that with him still there for 2 weeks and let him have the next game.
I thought I agree.
It's insane. And like, it just shows you, I think, that the GM never really supported Josh Wolf. Like, he always was he was always kind of balancing that fine line between, he's not my coach, right? And as soon as we're out of playoff contention, he's out. He's gone.
It is definitely a cold, I think, more calculated decision than not necessarily supporting him throughout his time. I don't know if it's fair to jump to that full conclusion. I think that this happens all the time. I think the right thing to do, I agree with you, timing wise, would have been to give him the rest of the season. The only thing that I would consider is that process is already much further down the road than just now getting into this grassroots search for a coach, right? Or unofficial search. And they're ready to either sign somebody or announce it. And in that case, then maybe you say, okay, it is what it is. Maybe. It didn't feel great. It didn't feel great for a guy like right. for especially for all these clubs that are saying that we appreciate and value all of the people that work for us and put in a ton of time and effort and everything, life into their clubs to go there. I thought it was a little cold, a little cutthroat. Yes. Another one though, from the tree of coaches that are intertwined and connected in this league. Josh Wolf's former head coach that he was with, Gregg Berhalter, jumps in to all of our former clubs, the Chicago Fire. Now, this is, I don't want to call this what's the right word? I think it's an opinionated hire. There are a lot of opinions around whether or not this was a good hire. Gordo, what was your initial reaction?
Good for him. Good for Chicago Fire.
Good for who? Good for Gregg? Good for Chicago? Both. Who's him?
Berhalter.
Okay.
Good for him. Jump back into the seat, dude. And really excited for Chicago Fire. Gregg Berhalter, you can say what you want about his stint with the U.S. national team. That's not an easy job. And he did it, and you're going to have your opinions. And maybe things didn't go the way that you wanted to in the end, and it never goes the way you want it to in the end. That's why people get fired.
It always ends poorly. It always ends poorly. Jerome Bettis is the only one that had a phenomenal ending.
Right. And so let's remember some of the great things that he did do for the U.S. national team, and he did a lot of good for it. He really did. He really did. And so what do we know about Gregg Berhalter in the MLS? Right?
Success.
Success. And so I think that Chicago, number one, the franchise needs it. They need a winner. Bad. I mean, this is one of the saddest franchises in MLS, in the MLS right now, just because they haven't won in so long. It's hard to get behind, especially a big sports city like Chicago. They're bouncing around stadiums. They haven't won. So I'm really glad and hope he gets enough time, because it's going to take him time to reset that roster, and he's gonna produce some attractive soccer, and he's gonna produce a winning team. I believe that wholeheartedly. So I'm happy for both of them in this moment.
Dax, you got anything? What do you want to add? What was your initial reaction? Your immediate reaction?
Yeah, a couple things from me. Very good hire. Not smart to give him a dual role of head coach and sporting director. I think that role is outdated, and I don't think that any one person is going to be highly successful doing both. I think we've seen it enough. I think Bruce was probably the last guy that was able to do that, because he was so good. You guys know this. Bruce was so good at keeping things simple and delegating where he needed to delegate. If he had his hands all over roster composition, well, then maybe he wasn't as prominent in the coaching scene, right? He let his assistants take care of a lot of things. He kept things simple. And look what's going on with Vermees right now in Kansas City. It's not been successful for the last couple of years. I think the only way that the Fire were going to get a coach of Gregg's caliber was that he used that leverage. He said, I want both roles or else I'm going elsewhere. And because it's a huge win for Gregg because he gets both roles, so he has full control of the entire sporting department, which is a lot. Then he doesn't have to move. His house was already in Chicago because of his U.S. soccer stint. Great. And he has a wonderful owner in Joe Mansueto who has shown the ability to spend money and that he will spend money. They're opening a brand new training facility very soon. And who knows what they're doing about a new stadium, but like whatever, you get to use Soldier Field and maybe the Bears move and you repurpose Soldier Field to make it soccer specific. Massive win for Gregg, big win for Chicago because like Gordo said, I think Gregg has proven he can be successful in MLS. Two things on that. He hasn't won a trophy that I know of as a coach. He didn't win one with Columbus. He made it to, I think, 1 or 2 finals and
What
lost.
do you mean? He won like a lot of those trophies with U.S. soccer that were them versus Mexico, and that was it.
Hey,
I'm talking about as an MLS Cup.
What were those things called? What are those trophies called?
The Nations League. The Nations League.
Nations
Okay, easy, buddy. We're talking about MLS here, okay? So look, I think that there's a valid criticism of Gregg that he plays very attractive soccer in MLS. He has a ton of possession. He plays progressive attacking soccer. He scores a lot of goals. His Columbus teams did, but at the end of the day, they weren't successful in the playoffs. That's the barometer, right? And I don't think they ever won a Shield. I don't think they ever won an Open Cup. So, okay, great coach, but let's see what he can do if he can produce on the back end of that. I think it's a very good hire from the fire. And listen, I think Gregg will come in and do a good job. But like Gordo said, he's going to need some time because that roster is a mess. The sporting director that Mansueto. This is why I think he's got a ton of time there because Mansueto, the old sporting director that has already left, he wasn't successful in 2 or 3 years, and Mansueto gave him a new deal, right? And so Joe Mansueto is very loyal. He's going to give Gregg a ton of time to fix that team and that roster. He will be successful at the end of it.
I think it's a phenomenal hire for the Chicago Fire. I think that your criticism of the dual role is valid because it hasn't been successful for a while. But I also think that ultimately comes down to, is Gregg good enough at delegating and building out a structure that makes sense for him? Because at the end of the day, I think that his role is really the head coach. I think that these dual roles, I think that they're valuable, but I think in terms of priority, the head coach has to be the priority. The sporting director can find a bunch of support, and granted, Bruce, to be fair, found a bunch of support in his role as the head coach, but he's still the head coach, right? I think that when these clubs are looking at these hires, when you look at Gregg in particular, what's Gregg been doing the last 5 or 6 years? He's been sharpening up his philosophy on how he wants to play, because he's not on the field in a day-to-day scenario, right? So he's thinking about all of these tactical scenarios and the way that he wants to implement some of these things. But he's also, from the other side of things, been studying international players. I mean, really in fine-tooth comb, right? Yeah. American international players, but also international players. I mean, you're looking at that, all of these leagues that you're going over and watching them play. So he's got now 5 years of experience of essentially just being maybe an incredible scout, the world's best scout, right? Or the US's best scout. I know he's got a scouting network. Like it starts to come together from a full picture, which makes a lot of sense to me. So I think in a lot of ways, Chicago maybe has finally found whatever is next for them, which is huge, because it is super important, in my estimation, in this league for the Chicago Fire to be relevant. And it has been a long time since they've been relevant. There's too much history there in that brand for them to not be a significant piece of what happens in MLS 4.0 or whatever it is. So great hire. And now comes the tough part. So we'll see how he does. Let's jump in. Let's start with the young guys. Let's start with MLS's 22 under 22, because I think that's maybe a little bit easier. We're not going to dive as deep into it. Dax, do you find value in this list? Do you think that this should trump the MLS's Rookie of the Year? Is this more valuable, more significant than what they're doing or what we've done in the past in terms of newcomer or rookie? Do you see a ton of value in the 22 under 22?
I mean, yeah, I see a ton of value in it, but I mean, no one is going to sit there and go back and refer to the 22 under 22 list if someone's not on it, and then they have an amazing career. Like,
is this more of a
shit.
hype train, or is it
It's a
actual
hype
real?
train. It's a hype train thing, and it's probably for more casual MLS fans who maybe don't follow it as closely, and because young players, they aren't as big of names, and they're not going to play as much as maybe some of these more established veteran superstar guys, of course. But if you follow, let's say, Inter Miami, for example, and you know about Diego Gomez, Aviles, Kromoski, all these guys, you're absolutely thrilled when you look at a list like this and you say, all right, this is all the main people that cover MLS, and they're putting 3 or 4 of our players in the top 10 of some of the best young players in the league. Well, that's fantastic. That shows, in my estimation, your scouting department is doing well. You're getting the most out of your roster. You're using every resource possible. Your under 22 spots, all that stuff. And this is part of the reason why Miami is so good and why they've won the Shield, is because when your big time players, your best players aren't there, you're developing players. They're stepping into roles that otherwise, maybe middle-aged veteran guys stepped into and didn't bring as high of a level of a ceiling to that role. So you look at this list, and there's so many players on this list who you say, okay, 19, 20, 21. And you look at 22 of them, almost across the board, all of them are playing big minutes. That's a total difference than even 10 years ago, where a list like this would have been made and you have 7, 8 guys maybe playing big minutes like this. It shows you how far MLS has come. So yeah, there's a ton of value in this list, but guess what? Any one of these guys would probably rather win the MLS Rookie of the Year because it means 10, 20 grand in their pocket.
I appreciate you going there, and I want to throw that to Gordo. Gordo, is this better for the players to be on this list? Because when they go back to contract negotiation, they're going to point to, I was number 7 on the 22 under 22. Or is this better for the league now that they're pumping up 22 players that are younger, that ideally they're selling them and their sell-on fee has increased? Who benefits more from this?
This is a league play. There's a league.
This is a league.
There's a league play. They want to say, hey, we're not an old retirement league anymore. Look at the youth that we're developing. Here's 22 of our best players. We're going to sell them for a profit, or they have interest elsewhere. And yes, the players can go back and use it to their advantage. But this is a league play 100%. They want to show that they're an up-and-coming league and get the young talent into the league and so on and so forth. The most interesting thing to me is what team has the most players on this list?
Dude, Inter Miami. I was going to say that stuck out to me too. 5 players.
5, which is crazy because you think of them as the youngest or the oldest, team in the league. Yep. And they got 5 players on the top 22, which is,
I thought the exact same thing, because we never talk about Miami and what they're doing.
That was my point.
What was your point? You didn't say that.
My point was that Inter Miami is so good because they use their entire roster. They use all these mechanisms. Their scouting department deserves a ton of credit for developing these players. First of all, to play enough minutes to make a list like this, and secondly, the potential is huge. Even if 1 or 2 of these guys don't hit and you don't sell them for $20 million, you're still developing an 18, 19, 20-year-old player who's going to be a staple in your roster for years to come. That was my point.
Think about how tough it is to scout these kids for Miami. Hey, Miss Gomez, does your son who's 18 want to come play with Messi and Suarez and Busquets? No, thank you. We're gonna go to the 3rd division German squad.
All right, so Dax, here you go. I want to. This will touch home for you because you're a part of Atlanta United. Atlanta United has prided itself on finding and unearthing young talent, right, from South America and selling it. That's what that's a lot of their business model. Chris Henderson clearly doing it. Yep. With Inter Miami. He's been the name that has been linked to Atlanta United most often because of Garth and Chris being working together with the Sounders. He's performed. If you're David Beckham or Jorge Mas, are you going to Chris right now to lock him up long term, or do you think that you can do it with somebody else? Where do you think this one's going to shake out?
I have no idea, but I would, if I'm Inter Miami, I'm trying to keep Chris Henderson for the long term, 100%.
And what if you're Garth Lagerwey? Are you giving Chris a blank check and saying, "Give me your price"?
100%. I think both of them should be fighting over him, but at the end of the day, I don't know how it's going to shake out. Obviously, Inter Miami is a very interesting test case because I think they've got a lot of different cooks in the kitchen. And I think they've brought in someone else who is like involved on the soccer ops side, who's like maybe above Chris Henderson now. So that might be a little bit of foreshadowing as to where that's going. I don't know for sure, but 100%. If I'm Inter Miami, I'm trying to keep Chris Henderson because he's proven that he can turn that franchise around. And forget about the big name guys, because Chris Henderson probably isn't doing a ton of recruiting with Messi and Busquets. That's probably all Beckham, right? But look at the rest of their roster and look at how they've built that roster with young players, with veteran players from different leagues. I mean, it's just a really well put together roster to be able to establish a floor of like, this is our performance level, even when our biggest players aren't playing. And if I'm Garth Lagerwey, I'm 100% making a run at Chris Henderson because they have a relationship from Seattle. And Chris Henderson knows what it takes to succeed in MLS, and he would be a fantastic first hire for Garth.
Gordo, you're leaving.
I'm back.
He's back. He's back. You're Chris Henderson. Are you taking the money in Atlanta or are you staying in Miami for the success?
I am.
Miami.
Yeah, I mean, you can make an argument to go to Atlanta, but
I'm asking, which argument are you making?
I would stay in Miami. It's really interesting what Dax brought up. I didn't, there's probably a lot of cooks in the kitchen, as he said, which would be interesting. I would have to know more about it, but it depends on how he feels about this new guy coming in that's above him and how their relationship is and how he feels respected and all that kind of stuff. So it's really nothing I can speak to. I think both would be very attractive jobs. He's in a good spot. But if it was me and things are going well and it looks like they are, I wouldn't move. As long as they're able to compensate him, and as long as it's all the obvious things, as long as if Atlanta comes and they write him a blank check, then he's going to go and he's going to go do well. If they take care of him in Miami, which they should, then he'll stay. I mean,
simple as that.
What would you do? What would you do? You get like stir crazy if you're in a place too long. You'd be out to Atlanta, wouldn't you? Dargs needs a challenge.
Need a challenge. Love a good challenge. I love a good challenge. For Chris, I mean, man, wouldn't you be able to jump into Atlanta and essentially build something after you've had a great role in Seattle, a great role in Miami, and a big piece of what they were doing? But to your point, Dax, like if you're already bringing guys in to sit above Chris, that's a question mark for me. And if I know who Garth is, which Chris obviously knows who Garth is, it's not like they're not spending money. They wouldn't be able to put your full stamp on it and say, hey, Chris, go ahead, build it, have fun. I can't see myself staying in Miami.
I would lean. Look, if I'm in Chris Henderson,
especially if they win the Cup this year.
Correct. And look at Atlanta. I mean, say what you will about this season, which has been a frustrating one. If you're looking at Atlanta as a potential job for a CSO or a general manager, 2 open DP spots, going into next, ton of cap flexibility, already well-established academy infrastructure, and a dedicated owner who cares about winning, and a team that has proven that they can win in the past. So for me, I think if the price is right and there's mutual interest, I don't see why it wouldn't work out.
So we're not sure where Hendo's going to go. That is an interesting storyline to see at the end of this season and when that ultimately happens, because I got to think that Garth is waiting on that, right? You have to think that. But Atlanta's season could be done. Miami's could be well into December. And does Garth want to wait that long? I don't know. We'll see. All right. We're not going to chop up the MVP award winners right now. We are going to preview, though, with a little game that I want to throw to you guys. So former MLS MVPs, right? Former MLS MVPs. There's been quite a few. Okay. We're going to see who knows the most. So Dax, you get to go, then Gordo, you get to go, then Dax gets to go. No, we're going to rock, paper, scissors for who gets to go first.
Oh, but me going against the MLS encyclopedia. This is awesome. I don't even know who won it last year.
The octopus.
Really don't.
The octopus. Yeah, I mean the odds in Vegas don't look good for you, Gordo, but you know,
Sure don't.
we're still going to give you a shot here. Let's go rock, paper, scissors.
Okay.
Best out of one. 1,
1,
2,
2, 3,
3.
shoot.
Yes, it is a 1, 2, 3 shoot scenario. I'll give you a 1, 2, 3 shoot. Ready?
Okay.
1, 2, 3 shoot.
Yes, let's
Gordo,
go.
Gordo.
See how late that was? See how late that was?
Dude, I told him. I don't know if you
Internet
saw
glitch.
that. I was going like this. I
That
threw up
was
the
an
scissors, throw up the scissors.
internet glitch.
All right, Gordo, you get to go first. We're gonna go. I'll give you 10 seconds to come up with an MVP, and I will give you a yes or a no on whether or not that is accurate. If you throw out, what do you want to? Do you want to get a rebuttal? If you throw out somebody, you get one strike. One strike as a
One
no.
strike is fair. Yeah, I think
One strike as a no. And then we'll cross them off the list. Gordo, you get to go first, and then we'll move to Dax. Ready? On 3, 2, and Gordo, you're up.
Chris Wondolowski.
Chris Wondolowski is correct. Dax.
I'm shocked you didn't go your boy Landon first. Got to get the obvious ones out of the way first. Come on,
That's
dude.
true.
Are you taking Landon?
I am.
Okay, Landon. That is correct.
I got nervous for a second. I thought, man, is the Landon Donovan MLS MVP award named after a guy who didn't win the MVP?
It's actually because he had a great supporter shield of a career. That's why. But never actually won the award. All right, Gordo, you're back on deck.
I'm going obvious again. Robbie Keane.
Robbie Keane, stay safe. That is correct. 2 for Gordo. Dax.
I'm going one that Gordo. It's very recent, and Gordo can't steal this one. Hani Mukhtar.
Hani Mukhtar. I love it.
I had no idea he won. Zero idea he won.
Gordo.
I am going Carlos Vela.
Carlos Vela, 2019. Yes, sir. Dax, you're up.
All right. This could be my first strike, but I'm going someone that I'm kind of sure of, but not totally sure of. Christian Gomez.
Christian Gomez was the MLS MVP in 2006. He was phenomenal. He was phenomenal. That was a great shout.
Yeah.
He was so good. He came to the Rapids. He got traded from DC to the Rapids when I was in Colorado, and he wasn't the same player for a number of reasons.
Have Jaime around him.
Dude, he didn't have quite a few players around. He had Herc Gomez. No offense, Herc.
Right.
Gordo, you're on deck.
I'm not sure, as Dax was not sure. I'm going to go friend of the pod, Taylor Twellman.
Taylor Twellman, good shout. 2005. Very, very lucky. But we will give it. It counts. Dax.
I will go Carlos Gil.
Carlos Gil in 2019. Nope, 2021. 2021. Carlos Gil, who was also phenomenal that year. He was so good. Dude, it is fun to talk about these guys because they were so good, which is why they're the MVP. But man, it was fun to play against them or with them or both. There were, God, so many of these guys. All right, Gordo, you're up.
And this is where it starts getting really, really choppy.
Spicy for Gordo here.
Dude, there's names here that are pretty obvious for you, bub.
I mean, I have to believe that this guy won an MVP.
I know who he's going to say.
I'm going to say Preki.
Preki won the MVP and was the only winner, I believe, to win twice.
Wow.
Let's go.
That's crazy.
I'm
going to say
two-time winner, 97 and 2003, Preki.
Wow, and 6 years between them. That's impressive.
Gordo, you've earned a credit, so you got
yes.
2 there.
Yes.
Yeah, it's on Gordo, put that on layaway. You can use that later.
Yeah. I'm gonna
Dax,
say
what do you got?
I'm gonna say who I thought Gordo was gonna say. Sebastian Giovinco.
Giovinco won in 2015, who was also
Yeah.
Phenomenal. That is a very good one. Dude, his time in TFC, he just got announced as I think an ambassador for TFC. So he's back in the building. I couldn't think of a more deserving ambassador, especially for that town. He's for me, he's the reason that that club flipped is Giovinco. As much as like Michael deserves credit and Josie deserves credit, Giovinco he was unbelievable, dude. He was unbelievable. All right, Gordo, you're up.
All right. Gosh, I'm just going some big names here. I have no idea. But I'm going to go with the guy that I just said. Did Jaime ever win it?
Jaime Moreno did not win MLS MVP.
That's a travesty.
I've got a few more, so I'm good. I am good. I'm not worried.
Gordo, you get one strike. We're gonna come back to you. You are still in the game.
I'll allow Gordo to use that one for extra credit, but I don't like where he's looking right now. Are you looking at a computer? Please.
I'm looking at the 20 for 20. I'm just looking at teams to.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. I'm gonna go David Villa.
David Villa.
That's a good one.
2016.
He won.
You know what? The only reason I knew that is because Sash and Brad were fantastic in 2016. And I think, I could be wrong, this may be something we have to look up. I think they were both finalists with Villa. And Villa won it because I think Brad and Sash took votes.
The Red Bulls split the votes.
Yeah. So I think that's why Villa won it. Not positive, but I was happy about that one.
Dude, Villa up close and personal playing against him was, dude, his movement. So we've talked about some guys and their movement in the box, but Villa's movement out on the wing, he would disappear, man. He was a ghost in so many different ways. And then his end product on the ball was pretty incredible. Gordo,
Okay.
are you going to stay in the game or are you going to stay out of the game?
Hold on. So can I ask my competitor, can I have a hint?
Sure.
Okay. Guards.
Yes.
Is there another Galaxy player on that list?
I
think there is another Galaxy player on the list.
Okay. I'm going to go Kobe.
Nah.
No. Is it Cienfuegos?
No, you're still wrong.
I know who it is.
Dax, I know you know who it is.
My boy. One of my favorite teammates ever.
Yes, sir.
Got me really drunk in Brazil back in preseason.
Uh-huh.
Pescadito.
Come on, the fish, man.
Carlos Luis. I knew it.
Fish in 2002.
Suck at this.
You do suck at this. Yeah, we'll keep. I'll give you more. I'll tell you what, Gordo.
What about Novak?
Dax, you got the win. We'll give you the win.
I was gonna say I got the win. Gordo, now we're on a team. All right, you ready? I'm going through the ones that I know 100% for sure, and Gargs can tell us how many we got left. David Ferreira, FC Dallas.
He won it?
He did not win it.
Yes, he did. I bet you both.
Yes, he did. You're right. 2010. Sorry. Yes, he did.
You guys agreed to pay me $1 million.
Okay.
David Ferreira.
You were probably on his team, right?
I was. Alejandro Pasuelo.
Pasuelo is a great one. I would have never guessed that. So 2020. He won it in the COVID year.
Okay, Pasuelo.
What team?
What's up?
Huh?
What team was he?
TFC. TFC. You're missing one from TFC.
Toronto had 3 MVPs.
They did. He earned the MVP in Toronto, but I think he earned it for his career prior to that.
Dwayne De Rosario.
Dwayne De Rosario. Yes, sir. Dwayne De Rosario.
I should have known that. He won it the year that me and him got traded.
Yeah.
2011.
Okay, how many more are we missing, Gargs?
You're missing a lot.
How about
we go with this?
How about a Seattle player? How about a Seattle player? Nicholas Ladero.
Nico Ladero not on the list. No, he did not win it. Another one that you won't get, which is like, I don't know, this is a question mark for me.
Scalotto.
Huh?
Scalotto. Well done. Yeah. Scalotto.
Scalotto.
Definitely.
No.
Really?
No.
Possible.
Sorry, yeah, he's on there. You're right. 2008, Schelotto. I was looking. So you got another DC United player who, for me, I'll tell you right now, it wasn't Echeverry, which is crazy.
That's awesome.
But you'll never get it. Luciano Emilio won in 2007.
Oh, yeah.
That's a big one. How about two of your better friends, Gordo, in life?
Oh, Mike McGee. How do we miss
Mike McGee?
Magic Mike McGee.
Mike McGee.
Right.
You got one more, and the team has already been referenced on the pod today.
Wait, I have one that I don't know. Oh, it's got to be Joseph Martinez.
Joseph Martinez. Yep. 2018. Come on, man. It's the only reason you're valuable, Gordo. It was this year in San Jose.
What? I said Wando.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, I did.
First one.
That's who you said first?
Yeah.
Oh, I missed that. Okay. Wando's on there. How about
is there a Houston Dynamo representative there?
Last year's representative hasn't been mentioned. You got another New York Red Bull on here.
Did Chucho win? Who won?
I was gonna say Amado Guevara.
Yep. You got another Red Bull on here. Even deeper.
Oh, God, really?
Metro Stars?
You know what? This is deep. Tony Miola. Echeverry is on here. 1998. That's early.
Echeverry. Okay.
Dude, he was so good for so long. How did he not win? Let me give you some of the earlier ones, the earliest ones.
Wait.
First one of the league. First MVP of the league.
Ronaldo.
No. Good shout.
Eddie Pope.
Nope. He was a rookie. Too young.
Frazier. No.
Miami Fusion. Valderrama.
Oh.
Valderrama. 1996.
Did
All right,
Raul Diaz Arce ever win it?
Raul Diaz Arce.
How about Lasker?
No, neither.
And Novak never did?
I got an FC Dallas one for you.
Wait. FC Dallas.
What year?
1999.
Oh, Jason Kreis.
Jason Kreis. Yes, sir. Jason Kreis. All right, let's see what you guys have gotten. You got Valderrama, Preki, Echeverry, Kreis, Alex Pineda Chacon in 2001, Carlos Ruiz, Preki again, Amado Guevara.
I feel like we're missing a sounder, Gordo, and I'm going to throw Obafemi Martins out there.
Taylor Twellman, GBS, David Ferrer, Dwayne De Rosario, Wando McGee, Kino, Giovinco, David Villa. You're in the right area, but no Sounders. No Sounders on this list.
What about
Pacific Northwest?
Diego
Valeri, Pacific Northwest. 2017, the year they won the cup.
Yeah.
No,
Didn't they win in 2017? They won in 2017, I think, right?
It was so good.
Beat Columbus. Joseph Martinez, Carlos Vela, Pozuelo, Gil, Mukhtar, Lucho Acosta.
Lucho. He was very, very well deserved. All right, I'm pretty happy
Fellas,
with that.
I think that you guys performed pretty well. Performed pretty well in a blind taste test with no prior knowledge or review.
Okay, so next week is our picks for all the awards.
Next week, we will go through all the picks for the rest of the awards. We'll go through MVP, Coach of the Year, Newcomer of the Year, Defender of the Year. And, just for the hell of it, Major League Journeyman of the Year. Dax, you're off the list. All right, fella, guys, we'll see you out there.
Let's ask Keegan who the Journeyman of the Year is.
Well done. We'll see you out there.